They kinda sold off their future. Those are the words of Dave Chekich, a former NBA executive and Utah native who knows exactly what sports assets are worth. And he was talking about the University of Utah's recent deal with the private equity firm Otro Capital. He didn't try to soften the blow or hide behind corporate talk, but instead he just said it plainly and moved on to the next point. This isn't just a story about one school in Utah, because it serves as a massive warning shot for every athletic department in America that has a big brand but not enough cash to keep the lights on. We need to ask the question that really matters right now, which is what exactly are these firms buying when they write a check to a college team? To understand why people are worried, we have to look at how the Utah deal actually works. The university took its athletic assets and moved them into a brand new company called Crimson Brand Partners. And then Otro Capital stepped in as a minority investor while Utah kept the majority of the ownership. In exchange for a piece of the pie, Utah gets a huge pile of cash and professional help with things like sponsorships, ticket sales, and licensing, which are the exact areas where most college departments have been struggling to get by on a tiny budget. On paper, this move sounds like a smart play because athletic departments all over the country are bleeding money right now. Costs are exploding for everything from coaching salaries and facility upgrades to travel and NIL deals, and most schools simply don't have the staff or the tools to make money like a professional sports franchise does. Otro Capital showed up with a big check and a proven playbook for making money, so Utah decided to say yes. There is a buyback clause in the contract that lets the university buy its shares back later, and while that sounds like a great safety net, it might be a bit of a trap. It is easy to feel good about a buyback today, but you have to wonder what that price tag will look like in 3 years after Otro has professionalized the entire operation and sent the school's valuation through the roof. The real twist here is that Dave Chekich isn't just some random critic or a professor watching from the sidelines. He is a heavy hitter in the sports world who launched his own $1.2 billion sports fund with the Eccles family in April of 2025, which means he doesn't actually hate private equity at all. He just hates this specific deal structure, and that distinction is important because it forces us to look at what Otro Capital will actually own 5 years from now. Every private equity deal looks clean when the cameras are flashing at the signing ceremony, but the real truth only comes out when it is time for the investors to take their profit and leave. Private equity firms aren't just making investments when they move into sports. They are making timed bets that have to pay out. The standard window for these deals is 5 to 7 years, and you have to understand that this timeline isn't just a friendly suggestion. It is baked into the very foundation of how the fund is built, how they report their wins to partners, and exactly how the people running the show get their bonuses. The second Otro Capital closed this deal with Utah, a giant invisible clock started ticking in the background. That clock doesn't care about the UT's record on the field or whether the players are actually getting a degree, because its only job is to hit a specific number by a specific date. So what does a firm like this actually do once they get inside the building to make that money grow? In the world of sports, the playbook is all about squeezing more juice out of every single revenue stream, including media rights, jersey sponsorships, and those premium fan experiences that cost a fortune. It is no coincidence that these are the exact areas Utah just handed over for Otro to manage. These are the most scalable parts of a modern team, and they are exactly what private equity experts know how to polish up so they can sell their stake for a massive profit later. The way this feedback loop works is pretty simple but very effective. The firm comes in and turns a messy university department into a professional revenue machine, which makes the whole program look way more valuable to the next buyer. When that 7-year window finally slams shut, the firm exits the deal at a much higher price than they originally paid. But here's the catch. Whoever buys that stake next might be a massive sovereign wealth fund or a faceless family office. Those new owners don't care about Utah's traditions or its educational mission because they are only aligned with their own bottom line. This isn't just a theory I'm cooking up, because the proof is already all over the professional leagues. Over 2/3 of NBA teams have some kind of tie to private equity right now, and all 5 major North American leagues have changed their rules to allow this kind of institutional money. At least 71 major teams across the continent are currently backed by private capital in one form or another. This is where the entire industry is headed, and these specialized funds are the ones driving the bus because sports teams keep winning financially. Franchise values have actually grown faster than the S&P 500 over the last 10 years, which is exactly why these firms are desperate to get in. And it's also why giving away your future upside right now is such a massive risk. There is a huge tension in this Utah deal that most people are too polite to mention out loud. A private equity firm's need for a massive exit and a university's goal to educate students are two completely different things. One side is trying to maximize a sale price, while the other side is supposed to be funding track and field and protecting the school's culture. Those two worlds can play nice for a few years, but when that exit clock starts getting loud and the investors want their check, something usually has to give. You also have to look at the legal paperwork because that is where the real power is hidden. A minority stake might sound like the school is still in total control, but these contracts are written with some serious teeth. They use things called tag-along rights that let the firm hitch a ride on any future sale Utah tries to make. Even crazier are the drag-along clauses, which can actually force the university into a sale they didn't even want in the first place. Utah's majority control has more asterisks next to it than a record book from the steroid era. The real ownership lives in the fine print, and since the long-form agreements weren't even finished when the news broke, we are watching a dangerous precedent being set in real time. But let's be fair for a second, because Utah isn't some helpless victim in this story. They made a cold, calculated bet with their eyes wide open. They looked at the chaos of NIL deals and conference realignment and realized they needed a massive pile of cash just to keep their heads above water. They decided that taking the money with strings attached was better than the alternative, which was falling behind schools with much deeper pockets. It's a rational move, but the scary part isn't that Utah did it. It's that every other athletic director in the country is probably looking at their bank account and thinking about doing the exact same thing. So if this is the trap everyone is eyeing, who else is about to walk into it? And what does the final stage of this game actually look like for college sports? If this Utah experiment actually works and produces more sponsorship money and better fan experiences, you can bet every other school will try to copy the homework. They won't do it because they love the legal structure, but they'll do it because they are terrified of being left behind and the check from the private equity firm actually clears the bank. These firms are already circling around athletic departments that are feeling the squeeze from every direction at once. What started as a unique deal at Utah will become the standard pitch deck for the next 10 schools within the next 18 months. The reason this trend is so dangerous is because of what Utah is actually giving up in the long run. They aren't just selling the ticket sales they have today. They are selling the future growth of the entire brand while it's still on the way up. We are entering a commercial era of college sports that is unlike anything we have ever seen before. Between NIL changing how players get paid and the House settlement shifting how revenue flows, these assets are going to be worth way more in 10 years than they are now. By signing this deal, Otro Capital now has a legal claim on the best version of Utah's future. For anyone trying to make it in the sports business world, you have to understand this one major distinction. A capital partner gives you the money to grow a business you still own, but a revenue partner takes a permanent piece of that growth for themselves. One of those relationships ends as soon as the check is signed, but the other one doesn't end until the investors decide it's time to leave. In this case, the exit clock belongs to the firm, not the university. The fact that Dave Chekich is out here raising his own $1.2 billion fund is the loudest signal in this whole story. Smart money isn't running away from sports, it's just getting more careful about how the deals are structured. These investors are looking for franchises and media ventures where they can get a piece of the action without creating a massive liability for the school. Chekich isn't telling people to avoid big money entirely. He's just warning them about what happens when you let desperation set the terms of the deal. That is the real lesson we should be taking away from this situation. The Utah deal doesn't prove that private equity is evil, but it does prove that when you need cash fast, and the person across the table knows it, the contract is going to reflect that power gap. The paperwork captured a specific moment in time when Utah felt the pressure of limited options and a revenue stream that wasn't fully tapped yet. Otro Capital priced that desperation perfectly, but we won't know if Utah made the right call until that 7-year clock finally runs out. If this becomes the new normal, athletic departments will stop being the heart of a university's identity and start acting like just another company in a giant portfolio. They will be managed for a return on investment that has absolutely nothing to do with winning a conference championship or helping a student graduate. The same guy warning Utah not to sell their future is actually out there raising $1.2 billion to do his own deals in that exact same market. You see, the problem was never about the money, because it was always about the terms of the deal. If you work in sports and want to understand how these deals get structured before they become your problem, hit that subscribe button and keep watching, because this is exactly the kind of story we break down here.